turn it over to Jody to go over the procedures.
Thank you. And today at the meeting, Secretary Isaac will conduct the meeting. Present here are Commissioner Dickerson, Commissioner Wild, Attorney Carroll, myself, Clark Rucker, Mike Coward, George Benjamin, Brian DeLozier. Other board members attending and voting remotely are Chairman McGuffin and Commissioner Elkins. So this is being conducted in accordance to the electronic meetings provision allowed by Governor Lee, which is currently effective till February the 27th, 2 days from now. So we're going to conduct the meeting under that order and to ensure health and safety of all the people who are a part of the governing body here. So at this point, I'm going to ask if there are any visitors on the call. Would you like, or please identify yourself?
I'm on the call.
Your line has been unmuted.
Okay, again, are there any visitors on the call? And if so, would you identify yourself?
I am on the call. By what authority do I have to identify myself?
Yes. Okay, I guess we got an anonymous. Anybody else on the call? I guess we're going to enter the board meeting, mute the line, and enter the board meeting at this time.
Your line has been muted.
Thank you. Secretary Isaac, I turn the meeting over to you.
Okay, the first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the January 28th meeting.
So moved.
We have a first and a second. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Wild? Aye. Commissioner Dickerson? Aye. Commissioner Elkins?
Aye.
Secretary Isaacs? Aye. Chairman McGuffin?
Aye.
Minutes pass.
Okay. Clark, will you lead us through the financial report?
The financial reports for the power system for January. Revenues were $6.7 million. We budgeted $6.6. Cost of goods, after all credits, $4.9 million. The original budget was 5.2, so left us an operating margin this month of $1.8 million, and we budgeted about 1.5, so 24% margin, which is pretty healthy. Total O&M cost is $816,000. We budgeted right at $1 million, and year to date that's 5.7 against a budget of almost 6. The net income for the month, including credits or net of those partnership credits, would be $163,000. With those credits, you're looking at $371,000 against a budget of $179,000. So really healthy month. Year to date, we're $1.1 million against a budget of $223,000. If you look at the next page, the stats for the month, total kilowatt hours sold, 76 million kilowatt hours. We're up about 1%. Year to date, we're still down a little over 3%, almost 4%, 521 million kilowatt hours. We budgeted about 541. And you can see at the bottom of the page, degree days for the month, pretty healthy, 784, quite a bit more than last year. So it was colder. The next page should be another insert as far as degree days. You got any comments on that at all, Jody? It's just we kind of track those and look at a 6 or 7 year term there to see where we're really going.
We've had some nice, cool weather, so at least in January.
Next page should be the balance sheet and power system. There's about $20 million of debt. This time last year, we were about $22 million. Just normal payments, no other large changes or outliers from a balance sheet standpoint. Next page should be the cash. Total cash, we're almost $17 million. This time last year, we were around 13. Spendable cash, we're right at 11. And this time last year, we were about 8.5. So healthy cash. That's all I've got as far as power. Do y'all want to approve all those together, or each one all up together?
Together.
Okay. So So water system, total revenue is 635. We budgeted 641. Year to date, that's 47. Pretty close to what we budgeted. Total O&M 453 against the budget of 485, and year to date we're at 3.2 against the budget of 3.3 million. So really healthy numbers there for the month and the year to date. Net income for the month end is a positive $23,000. We had anticipated actually a negative 15,000 for this particular month. Year to date we're 364,000, and just last we had budgeted 266. So on the cost side, on the water side, has helped a lot. Look at the sales, total gallons sold, we're down almost a percentage point, 277 million. We budgeted, 227 million. We budgeted 228. And year to date, we're essentially flat, 1.7 billion gallons.
49 million unaccounted for.
Sorry, unaccounted for. Yeah. What was the question, David?
Where does it go?
I mean, we know why it's that much more.
It's probably billing days versus production days. We get into that sometimes. I didn't check it this month. But sometimes, like, our production will report 30 days, and the billing will say, we could have done production of 31, the billing might have been 32 days. And so that account for them making up. That makes sense. And so that is part of it. It's been running about, it normally runs, I track it, it's around 10 to 13% somewhere if you match up the days typically.
David, love our industry to get bread like that. They come in on the end of the month. It could be a Friday or a Monday, and it could wrap a little. And then, of course, your UD's red. I'm not sure exactly when.
Well, it depends if it's on a weekend or not.
Yeah, that's like power bill.
Yeah.
But you're getting 70-80% of your water revenue right there. So if you go a Friday, and then the first is not till Monday or something like that.
So on an annual basis,
Right.
is a 13% the industry standard number? So are we below or
We're
above
below.
that? We're below.
Yeah.
Well, that's high for us, right? We run it.
Yeah, it's a little high for us, but that's something I've been trying to want to dig into and see why, because we used to keep it below 10%. It's crept up just a little bit. I've been wanting to try to dig in, trying to find out what's going on, but normal industry, like the state comptroller's office, you got to be below 30%. That's when they start looking at you, and we've never even been near that.
My friend that manager down in Lenore City, he said they're a municipal, but they go out in county. So they were running 35%, and comptroller made them buy a couple $1 million worth of software to try to ultrasonic to try to find leaks and reduce them. He put a whole AMI system in for his water, just based on that order. But so UDs, they're typically the ones that get into that because of the rule. Bean station, but they tell you they can't. You think you find a leak and it come to the ground, but if you got a lot of caves, you just hard to find.
It's not necessarily. I mean, I don't want to get into a long discussion about it, but it's not just leaks. Meter's not being,
That's true.
maybe for some reason looked over. Meter may be dead, a large meter, and it takes a while to catch it. It could be our primary flow element coming out of the plant, maybe off a little bit. There's a lot of things you got to check to nail this stuff down.
Right.
And it's more complicated than just saying we got leaks.
Right.
So it could be just recording.
Yeah, it's just like, a meter is only, a brand new meter out of the box is only 2% accurate. That's a 5/8 meter. And the larger the meter gets, your accuracy fluctuates.
Remind me, you're
100% accurate.
98% plus or minus 2%.
I got you.
About that.
you're measuring your flow out of the plant with Venturi's,
Yes.
which is a pressure drop. It comes back. What's the accuracy on a Venturi?
It's usually, if you try to do a test on it, but if you
not
get
that
down less than 5%, you're doing good.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's not as accurate.
So it's not all leaks then.
It's 14 million gallons more.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot, but when you compare it to what you pump for the month, when you're doing, an average 9 million gallons a day.
That's a good question. I'd like to check that because it really has. We've found that in the past to be that you're billing on XX days. And
your wholesales.
I've got a little spreadsheet.
Yeah, we'll double check
I
that.
usually run that every month.
Over on the right, that's accounts, per month, 1059, 1055, 918, 175, and so on.
Yeah.
We went 5 industries last this month. That, right?
Yeah, look, Clark, that's more your,
Yeah, looks like unless they were reclassified, but I don't see it going there either.
We reclassified more than Colgate.
Colgate, yeah, Colgate's the only one I know, sure enough. I mean, that would account for one, but
Some industries may have multiple meters, right? So they might have just, they do, taken one of their meters out or something.
right.
It doesn't necessarily mean the industry's left. I'm trying to think, I don't know if an industry's gone out. That's why.
no. Yeah, I don't know of anybody who's left, sure.
Right.
Good guy?
Good.
So again, stats per year for about 6 or 7 years or so, kind of track it by month there. To Joey's point, last year was 32% above average. Most of that obviously was due to February, right? Doesn't look like that's going to happen this year, hopefully. Unless the next few days, next few days are really wet, yeah. Yeah. So balance sheet and water system, again, no major changes there. We got total debt of about $8 million or so. I think that's the least of any of our systems, if I'm not mistaken. Water total cash, $2.8 million, $2.5 last year, and spendable, we got about right at $2 million essentially, up about $100,000 from last month, about that same amount from last year. And sewer system, income statement revenue for the month, $1.4 million. We budgeted $1,130,660, so up about $20,000 from what we budgeted. Year to date, 9.7, budgeted 9.3, and total O&M's right at $600,000. We budgeted 658. Year to date is essentially flat, up about $40,000 year to date. So net income for the month is right at $90,000. We budgeted 113, and year to date we're 490 against a budget of 608. So we're holding our own. And the month of January is when the second rate change kicked in. So from here on out, it's all the rates we have.
Yeah, it's on with the first month. Brandon reported it was 56,617.
Yeah.
For January. The first month it's rate increase. Now the one we did back in the fall has been averaging about 47 a month. So it's on target to generate 900, a little over 900,000 this year.
Sales were down about 2% for the month, and year to date we're up about 2%. And again, obviously resales have nothing to do with that. It's all inside of our own system. So, and balance sheet, total debt $75 million, and that comes down to the tune of about $5 million a year currently. We'll have a little bit more of that discussion later. Total debt service is about $7 million a year, principal and interest. But the principal itself is about 5. So total cash 6.5. This time last year we were 8. Probably had some bond funds mixed in there. So spendable 6.5. That's just clean, clear rate money, and that's all you'll see going forward. Brandon took the last $900 or so thousand, rolled it into the LGIP fund because we have a project that has spoken for those dollars. So everything is considered spendable money now.
Customers, y'all add septic haulers? They flipped.
How many transactions do you add, Mike? It's by credit card transaction.
No.
Septic call?
Septic call. No, they're not.
9 versus 4.
They're just getting one people. I mean, that's an account.
I don't know if the 4 is accurate or not, to be honest with you.
You're talking about the customer. Yeah.
The customer count.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah.
I just wondered if they would pick it up, last time.
Oh, yeah.
Bottom right-hand corner.
Yeah, we picked up, right, that's what you're looking at now. Yeah, we picked up several customers.
Okay.
Is that just customer account data, or is that customer usage data for the month?
The gallon total is usage data, and then the 9 versus 4, that's not account. We got 9 account. It's counts.
But it's still, every one of them, you issue the septic haulers credit. or kind of a credit card.
It's just a
Yeah,
ID
card
badge.
lock.
ID
It's
badge.
got five more people that can use it now.
Right. But what we did is they got a card. They hook the truck up, scan it, then measure
flow
volume
volume.
done, and then we send them a bill at the end of the month.
In a decent.
There's a 94% increase up there for the month. On 449 versus 874.
Yeah, we've really picked up compared to last year. See, last year we were just getting started with it.
What happened at Greenville? You said something they couldn't take it.
I don't know the details, but I just know the Greenville shut down receiving. So we got several Greenville haulers coming down dumping on us now.
Is the guy over here in Grainger County still bringing most of their stuff?
I think that's going to be pretty standard. Look at our look at year to date.
Yeah.
It's strong.
Yeah, man, it's strong.
Well,
Greenville may go away.
yeah, that could come or go, and there's in one hauler accounts for quite a bit, and that could go away. So I always say it's good cash flow, but I don't think we need to depend on it.
Well, you can tell size-wise, really, it's next to nothing.
Right.
Just less
But it's not something we can count on for years to grow.
less than 1%.
But when you look over there at year to date, it's a good chunk.
Yeah.
Almost 6 million gallons. Good news here, we paid off the investment. Pretty quick.
Yeah.
So we're,
It's paying for itself.
It's already paid for. Yeah, it's already paid for itself.
What was the investment? Yeah, I forgot.
It was about.
Mike, what was the investment?
It was right around 300,000.
300.
300.
Yeah. Well, it's a good community service too. To give people
Exactly.
place to dump.
And we got it set up where the guys, they can come 24/7. They can dump on Sunday. They can dump, 2 o'clock in the morning if they need.
If we didn't have this service and Greenville doesn't have it, then they would have to raise their rates to haul it further away.
That's
So
right.
it's saving those septic tank owners some money.
Well, weren't they bringing some of it to the plant too, which caused more upsets if you dump it right in?
That's the reason we stopped it was when the plant, before all the plant work was, they were dumping at the plant and dumping directly in on top of the plant caused treatment issues. And so we've got it out in the collection system.
Dilutes it out.
Dilutes it, yeah.
Solution is a solution, yeah.
Good, guys. Yeah. George and Lynn, can you guys hear okay?
Yeah, I can hear fine.
Okay. Lynn, you good?
Yes, I'm sorry, I had on mute.
Okay. So telecom income statement for the month, the revenue is 975 or 976, budget essentially flat. Year to date we're 6.7, budget is 6.8. Cost of goods right at 300,000 with budget 288, so up a little bit there. Year to date though, $2 million, and it's about 100,000 or 60,000 or so short of what we'd budgeted, which is a good thing. From a O&M expense though, made up a lot of ground this month. We'd budgeted right at 530,000. Actual cost is 468. Year to date we're 3.3, budgeted 3.4. So net income for the month is $114,000 on for the month, and we'd budgeted right at 63,000. Year to date 752, and we'd budgeted 663. So pretty healthy numbers. Most of it obviously related to cost reductions. Next page should be the stats. You can see total business customers right at 1,000, residential about 5,400, so total customer counts right at 6,500 customers. And that's up about 400 customers from this time last year. Our right-hand side obviously is commercial disconnects. Only the first 3 were related to customers moving somewhere else. The rest of them were either disconnects, customers deceased, or closed their business, whatever.
But Dr. McKenna,
And,
it's on the left and right.
then that's a transfer. Either move from one location to the other or move the account probably. And then
Morris meat and seafood, I'm just curious.
Morris,
Doesn't matter.
I don't know.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Go on.
I do not know. I can find out though.
Thought it might be missing.
Looks like we're losing the liquor stores, looks like. Yeah, that is, I think that's the, is it a Patel that's buying most of those, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. They own most of those. Yeah. No, they see. They own the, seller. Yeah, they own both of those. The Patels do. Yeah. Last page should be some more FiberNet stats. Again, just looking at customer trends. It's really interesting to see the internet. Last January to this January, 400 plus customers. And one of the numbers Brandon pointed out the other day, something like 80% of our recent installs have been internet only. And of course you can see the phone and video trends there trending down like we always see. Balance sheet, again, no major changes on the balance sheet side. That hasn't changed a whole lot. $6.3 million. And then next page should be cash. Total cash was $775 last year. So $490,000 essentially spendable cash at the end of the month. And we were about $460 this time last year. So it's kind of holding its own. Telecom is going to behave much like the sewer. And big principal payments come out in June. So the next big chunk will be in June. And that's all I've got as far as financials.
Okay.
Our interfund loan has got about 4 more years on it. Is that? That's correct. We're making just the standard payments, and we elected to, not pay anything ahead of time because that interest rate is about 25 basis points per the contract. So we're just kind of riding it.
Okay, do we have any other questions for Clark on the financials? Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Wild,
Aye.
Commissioner Dickerson, Commissioner Elkins,
Aye.
Secretary Isaacs,
Aye.
Chairman McGovern.
Right.
5-0.
All right, 5-0. Financials passed. Next on the agenda is resolution 2021-02-01, directing payment of the tax equivalent wastewater. Be it resolved by the Morristown Utility Commission that the Morristown Utility Commission hereby agrees to pay the following amount of wastewater tax equivalent to the City of Morristown for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2020 and ending June 30th, 2021 in the amount of $807,879.55.
This is back on the agenda from last month. You had asked us to look at 2 or 3 items, and I'll turn that over to Clark to report. I think 2 or 3 issues y'all asked us to look at.
Can you guys hear me if I go up front? George, can you hear me okay? I kind of did not hear what you started out saying then.
He's not going to hear it.
But I've been able to hear it. Okay. Can you hear me now? Yes. Okay. So toward the end of the PowerPoint, probably 2 or 3 slides up from the end, we put in a slide that shows the tax equivalent payment calculations for the next 5 years. Can you and Lynn get to where you can see that? I don't really know how to see it, but
It's on the financials.
it's on the financials.
It's on the financials.
On the pages past the end.
That slide?
Yes. If you don't have it either.
It's on, yeah, it is. It's on page.
It's on page 23.
Yeah.
There was a late download this morning. It might have been
Yes.
there.
Okay,
Yeah.
I missed it.
It's on page 23 of 24, George and Lynn, of the financials.
I got it.
Okay. Are you good? No, but go ahead.
If you do a download right quick, it'll pop it in there because I think they added it this morning.
I'm having to go back and re-enter it, so. Okay.
Okay.
All right, very good.
So currently, we're paying taxes is $756,000, over 12 months. The current calculation, like we said, is front at $880,000. We did a calculation to show what that trend is going to be for the next 5 years, assuming Mike has essentially no capital in the current year, and then $2 million a year for the 4 years following that. That averages somewhere between $771 and about $655,000. If you average those 5 years together, tax equivalent will be about $700,000, which is about a $100,000 decrease compared to where we are right now. If we just sit tight and do nothing, it's going to drop about $30,000 or $40,000 next year anyway, unless we add some large capital project, which right this moment it doesn't look like that's going to happen. Right? Sure. So if you go up a page or two from that, go up one page from there to page 22. I just put together some rough notes, and this may be a little hard to, read from a logical standpoint. I was just making some notes to talk from, but one of the questions we asked was, can we accelerate depreciation? Talk to our auditors, and obviously they have contact with the comptroller. If you change your depreciation method midstream, that raises a lot of questions from a comptroller standpoint. Why are you doing that? Really shouldn't do that. I don't know that there's a code that says you can't, but the methodology we use is the standard for the industry. Now, one of the things Brandon pointed out is that we essentially accelerated in a way anyway based on the way our depreciation calculation in the system works. If you have an account, we depreciate based on account totals, not individual items, is basically the issue. So if you've got $1 million and you've depreciated it down to, let's say, $100,000, and you put a $500,000 item into that account, then it's going to depreciate $7 million over the same rate that it would have just $1 million. So it effectively pulls that new $500 balance down quicker, if that makes sense. So when you say accelerate depreciation, that's the way we look at it from a utility standpoint, right? Really, if we want to change the amount we pay in tax, the formula itself that's outlined by the TCA is the best way to do that. Now, the assumption I used was to say, look, we're going to pay $800,000. If we want to reduce that by $200,000 even, that $200,000 is about $17,000 a month. The $17,000 is essentially 30 cents per 1,000 gallons based on our current sales and our current customer mix. So what is $12.50? A rate of $12.50 would go to $12.20. It literally saves the average customer about 40 cents. So for the sake of $200,000 and 40 cents per customer, is that worth
40 cents per customer or
per month?
per month?
Per month.
Per month.
Yeah, per month.
40 cents per month, customer per month.
So, is that worth, the issues that will cause from a city standpoint?
What issues would that be?
The main thing
you're talking about,
the main thing that comes to my mind, honestly, is if they get crossways and decide they want to start changing board members. Really, to us, is it worth that? And the fact that next year it's going to start turning down anyway. Those are the two. That's just the two biggest pieces in my mind, George. On top of that, and this is a little bit of a sidebar conversation though, but I think Rod or somebody had asked last month also about refinancing. And on top of my head last month, I said $50,000. There's not a lot there. But when we went back and revisited a third time, this is the third time now,
we can levelize the existing 2012 debt issue, which comes due in July of this year. And that will save us about $2 million, $1.5 million over the 15 years that are left on the debt. Now, the bulk of that savings is weighted at the front. So for the following 3 years, we'd save about $300,000, $500,000, and $500,000 per year for the next 3 years. And then that savings trickles off to around $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 a year. So there will be immediate
balance out against, because your in lieu is going to be coming down.
Yeah. So that in itself will pull in, $500,000 a year for the next 3 years, which would help.
How much money is it? It's just now becoming callable this summer?
Yeah. Original issue, I don't remember. Dang it.
But whatever that issue is that we can call this summer, we could save $300,000, $500,000, $500,000.
Yeah.
Well, tell us 1.5, no matter how you look at it.
Yeah.
Hopefully the interest rates will be down this summer like they are now. Hopefully the interest rates will be down this summer like they are now, so we can take advantage of this savings. So this savings is calculated on current rates.
Yeah.
The government used to let you call those, refi those anytime you wanted. They changed some rules back in 17. So now if there's, I think first 90 days you can do something, and after that there's a callable period where you can't refi.
Do we have to have a board action to revisit that, or will you automatically do it? Or
We just do it. If we have this conversation and nobody's really, says anything otherwise.
I think we need to pursue the refi option, definitely.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Does that have to go, if we reissue that, does that go to the city, would have to go to it?
Yeah, part of the deal there is that is part of a larger issue with the city. They have some debt in that mixture also. So
So it'll be
it'd have to
50 also.
be, it would.
Is this, that assuming variable?
No, it's all fixed.
That's all. So they should go for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another piece of that same conversation, these savings, 3, 5, and 5 over the next 3 years, the actual debt payments themselves start to really turn down in 2026, I believe, to the tune of, it's down about $1 million a year compared to what we're doing now. So this gets us out to 2024. So it really leaves us 2 years in there to kind of what's going on, what do we do differently, what else can we do to keep from raising rates, to your point.
We were talking on the phone.
For that $2 million capital we're talking about yearly for the budget, CapEx, especially being front loaded, and then in 26 we pick up the additional
$1 million.
where we lose, this drops off.
Yeah.
So we could actually budget it, we just have 1 year there gap.
And then it really starts diving.
If we can get by without borrowing too much in the next 3 or 4 years, when that eventually it will drop, we can hopefully get some rate relief, definitely.
The next drop after that's not till like 2030 or 2035, something like that.
And with all the rehab that we've done in the last couple of years, you would think our CapEx spending would be a little bit light for the next couple of years.
I wouldn't. Don't assume that.
Well, now he's trying to. Like I told David, there's a when is this license coming? They may add nutrients requirements and turkey.
Yeah, that'll be 2025.
And that could be
that'll be $2 million.
I'd have to borrow to do that. I don't think we can generate that. Probably.
So that's 2025.
I believe that could just be extended the term.
Yeah,
Smoothing it out more.
Because, I assume this is down to nothing now on rates.
Yeah. So all of that conversation around tax equivalent and where we go from there.
Okay, thank you, Clark. Any other questions for Clark? We have a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion. How about a second?
What are we doing a motion on?
We're doing a motion on the tax equivalent.
On the top of just what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just pay the 807-879.55. Have a motion by.
Was that a second by Lynn?
Did you second, Lynn?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Wild. Commissioner Dickerson. Commissioner Elkins.
Aye.
Secretary Isaacs.
Aye.
Chairman McGuffey.
Pass.
Okay, that passes. We do have a project in the power, Brian?
Yes,
There are actually two projects in power, I guess, or we be doing the same virtual.
Yes, yeah, I can do that.
The first project for the 400 block of Oak Street over in Oak Hill subdivision. It's basically replacing 6 cotton poles with bad primary. It's been up forever. They're phone company poles. So the phone company couldn't find the poles. Of course, we have to do all the change out of the primary, replace transformers, things like that. So that project for replacing those 6 poles in Oak Hill, $30,000.
Okay.
We'll do those separately or together.
Let's go ahead and let's pass them separately. Do we have a motion on the street?
Tell me again on labor, we'll put 20 grand in there for the labor. We're doing that in-house?
Yes, that's our labor.
So what do we do there? We'll put the 20, we've got it in-house.
Yeah, we set up that work order number and all the materials and labor get charged through that and accounting.
So it's basically just for accounting purpose as far as when we do projects and separate alignment work versus.
Yeah, based on what the project comes through, the accounting group makes a decision to O&M something, and put it in construction in progress, which ends up putting it in capital.
This balance sheet stuff, as far as moving to.
When you say separate, I'm not sure what you mean.
Well, we
just showing it as a separate dollar value there, or?
Where does it show up in our accounting? The 20 in the.
So this will end up as an asset, capitalized asset.
It would not show up. It eventually show up in depreciation.
But I think what you're getting at is if this $20,000 in labor is in the budgeted labor, and we use that labor on a CapEx project, then it really reduces our operating expense. It makes our operating expense look lower.
It does.
Because it was allocated to a CapEx project.
Unless we're doing it at the front end of budgeting, knowing that we're going to have so much dollars.
Like estimating CapEx labor.
From an account, or is it moving?
No, what you're saying is, what he's saying is the way it works essentially. The way we budget O&M is we know essentially how it works every year, every month, right? And we look for outliers. Now there's labor and overheads and all the things that are component parts of that, but they're kind of on a trend, right? And we budget capital projects totally separately. So we know we need to do these things, build whatever line, and the labor hours that go with that. It's kind of a separate deal. So that if you remember, if it don't go in O&M, then it's going into capital.
Yes, strategically, back when we set the capital budget for wastewater, we had a goal for Mike to try to use as much of his crews as he could, instead of contracting out, which lowered the O&M and got it. And he's been able to do some of that. Probably he'd like to have done more.
Well, that's why January was low.
Yeah.
The finances was we spent the majority of January working on a capital project. Crews did. So therefore, it lowered our own end.
We just need to keep in mind when we look at financials that some of our we're seeing lower
because
we're moving monies
into capital. Yep, that's correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have a motion on this project?
Motion.
Okay, a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Wild? Aye. Commissioner Dickerson? Aye. Commissioner Elkins?
Aye.
Secretary Isaacs?
Aye.
Chairman McGovern?
Aye.
5-0.
That motion passes. Now let's move on to the virtual desktop infrastructure project. Clark?
So this is essentially to replace, the biggest reason we're doing this is for software upgrades in our virtual platform. All the computers essentially that we have in the company, the majority of them anyway, run off of a virtual platform that allows you to set up a profile for every user. And those folks can work remotely, or they can work, obviously in the office itself. This platform's been one of the key pieces that allowed us to have our TSRs and some of our CSRs work from home in a secure manner. The biggest issue we have with it right now is the software that basically runs on is Windows 2007. And the big piece of that will upgrade it to Windows 2008. But it also upgrades the software itself to allow us a little more flexibility and a little more detail as far as how we set up those profiles per user.
You don't have any more support on 7 anyway.
I'm sorry? No, but that was one of the main drivers of why we're doing
Get
it.
the chance to. And this is going to be at all locations?
Yes. For system-wide, essentially.
Was this in the budget?
There was $100,000 in the budget, and I think it ended up right at 150. 15 of that is contingency, so it's about 30,000 over what we actually budgeted, unfortunately. But yeah, it was.
Okay. Any other questions on the virtual desktop? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion.
Second.
Dickerson, second.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Wild? Aye. Commissioner Elkins?
Aye.
Commissioner Dickerson? Sorry, I got that. Secretary Isaacs? Aye. Chairman McGuffey?
Aye.
5-0.
Okay, the next item is purchases for board approval. I believe you all have those.
Yeah, there's two groups. The first group, and Brian, you can speak up anywhere you want to here, but the bulk of the electric side is essentially conventional transformers and pad mount transformers for stock. That's $112,000. On the telecom side, at the bottom of the page, the first item is actually set-top boxes for the IPTV platform. We're trying to minimize our investment on that side, but as we stand right now, there are about 400 customers that we have to transition to IPTV, or they're going to start losing their signal, basically. And George can highlight a little bit more of that, but like Jody.
What's the drop dead date on that transition?
Well, depends on how you want to define it. If you define it by existing equipment that could crash if it's no longer supported, unable to support legacy, that could happen at any minute. If you talk about the C-band transition or re-regulation of C-band spectrum and how that affects programming, that will happen from here till June. If you talk about sword and other components, set-top boxes and things like that, that will happen from attrition when we no longer have stock to support those services. So, as well as ONTs, because now all the new ONTs do not have our F4 to support the existing legacy video system. So it depends on which way you want to look at it, which way you ask the question is how we can get the answer.
Is there different set-top boxes as far as, are they all going to be the same, or do you shop those? How do we?
We shop those. The restriction to shopping those is which ones are supported through the Minerva 10 platform, which is the guide that you see for IPTV. The old set-tops are no longer available. Just like the ONTs. When you hear somebody refer to a 440 or a 420 in an old ONT, it only has 100 megahertz capability or 100 megabit capability over internet speeds. Those are all going away in the transition. Those are the only ones that still support RF video.
So every ONT we install today is capable of 250, 250, I mean.
They're capable of 1 gig services.
But the minimum we offer on that new, our minimum product is 250, 250, right?
I had a call about they hate the set-top box. It's not as good as the old one. Don't even show you the time, channel you're on. You have to flip the channel, know what channel you're on. They lock up, and mine doesn't. I have to go up there and unplug and replug. And he said every week, sometimes once a day. I said not every day, but I do know experience what he's talking about. They don't. There's different.
Depending on what we decide to do, and this is a whole other topic in and of itself, and over-the-top applications, there are there's much more variety of set-tops that are capable in an over-the-top environment versus the IPTV. Once again, the IPTV is limited only by that number one that we can shoot the guy. And most of
The volume goes up and down. Well, I have experienced that.
That's a whole different issue. That you can blame, or you can refer to the FCC rules and regulations for, because when they changed all the rules and regulations on how video is digital or an IP environment, what happened was the end user now has no regulation and strictly regulated by the programmer. If the programmer is not disciplined and does not follow the parameters of the satellite transmission and downlink, then you'll see a variance in audience.
You're talking about just between channels, one side of it.
So one channel will do it, the other one won't.
Yeah, the only ones that we still have access to, I control over, are those that we down convert into an MPEG-2 those we still have a little bit of volume adjustment to. Anything above that that's not currently in that platform or is currently in the MPEG-4 platform, we have zero control over. It's all regulated by the programmer itself, by the transmission program.
Video is an interesting study. We've talked to Ted Nugent last week, and even a year ago, I guess, Clark, when we were down there, and they're planning to be out of video, period, 5 years. You went from paying zero carry charges to, what are we now, 24, 26?
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
I mean, a month. You're just paying for these.
For the local guys, yeah. What we're trying to balance, David, is, obviously minimize the investment, but have as few customers walk away as possible, because typically if they take the video with them, they're going to take the internet too. That's what we want to keep. We've looked at it different ways. We've looked at, fine, if we just turn it off, everybody that has video walks away. You just can't do that.
Yeah, and most of that's based on demographics of the city itself. I mean, most of those users that are still using set-top boxes, probably where most of the complaints come, are from that age group that I'm in. They're typically used to that user to that based on age and demographics.
I kind of thought.
Spectrum, do they have set-top?
No, they do not. They do not have an IPTV system. What they have is digital.
The set-top boxes they get used to, they get easier, George.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and, if you compound the difference between an RF set-top or digital set-top and the IPTV one, and then deal with the number of bugs and software issues that we dealt with for the first 2 years, it was problematic. I would tell you that over the last 12 months, that's simmered down quite a bit. Now, you still have user issues. And the way I best term those is, because you don't like to call them customer education issues, but it's truly about the intention of the use of the remote. If you're not intentional about which buttons you push, you're going to make a mistake. If it's a casual use like you used to do in the RF environment, it's much more forgiving. If you're not intentional about what you press and the sequence by how you press, you'll get lost very easily. You can create that cut-off environment where, like you said, that you may call in because you don't know what's wrong and they ask you to immediately. But unfortunately, customer education standpoint or troubleshooting standpoint, the first remedy, if you call it TSA, is the first thing they're going to have to do is reboot your box. Just like anything, your computer, if you call Dell today and say, if you're a regular user, residential user, they're going to say, well, I'm going to need you to unplug it and just plug it back in. Let's see what happens then. That's a lot of how all that troubleshooting starts.
I don't mind the remotes. You can get the STV and the set-top box. Sometimes you turn it on, it'll turn off the set-top box, turn on the TV, vice versa. I haven't found what you're talking about, that sequence. I haven't found that sequence yet. I have to go look, see if the blue light's on or...
So it's normally a back finger event where your finger...
It's all on your remote, David. There's one that says set-top box. So you can synchronize them after you screw them up.
Worse with color
The screen is 13 of them. And the one in the bathroom, when everyone's anyway, but it hadn't been on. If you do not turn it on at all, it's like you lose it. If you don't turn it on for 10 days, just play it back up.
Yeah, that's a different issue.
I don't know.
Some of the upgrades we've done recently have made changes to the box, right, George?
Well, that's the problem. You have an issue like, I'll just give you a perfect example, like closed captioning. That was a problem on one level of the software revision that we upgraded. So they created a hot patch for it, and when they created that hot patch for it, you upgraded to that. That created another issue associated with go back and restart. So you're kind of at the mercy of how well each one of those patches and revision upgrades can go. I mean, that's the same for any other software. Network activity might, I'm sure, goes through a lot of the same types of things where you fix one thing and you create another thing.
When you say, I can't even watch PIP. I want to watch 2 ball games, so I can put them up on the screen.
Yeah, that's a whole other secret in and of itself. You
Can you do that?
Done. Yeah, you can show you how that's done, but you're right, as a casual, you're not going to come across that. But
I don't want to, what might be caught him, I do it, so.
the
Dealer's office, he switched he switched back to Spectrum, he said, it's just too many issues. He said,
Well, that's
all the
okay.
money y'all spent, and then we get this crap, and the other box is better than the new box, and
well, the other boxes are no longer available, and Newport's a whole different issue because they use a self-contained hard drive in their box, different software, different operation, different setup, completely different than what we do. The only thing that we offer the only thing that we can use out of the Newport pieces and licenses that we retain over you, because they'll work universally on either box that you decide to purchase. And so it is getting better when you look at the long journey that we've been on that road. It's a lot better than where it was. Does it still create a new monster every 3 months? Yeah.
well, it's always buying 12 or more of them.
Yes.
If there were other options, we would be exploring other options for set-top manufacturing. But right now, they're the only ones that operate on the Minerva 10 platform. My son works at Clarksville, and they have Minerva 5, 6, and 7. Those versions, and they have 3 or 4 different flavors of set-top stream.
And the difference between Minerva 5 and 10 is,
Software revisions, feature sets, software revisions, the guide, look and feel.
my question would be on Minerva 5 instead of 10.
Then you lose half the features that we offer right now with regards to go back, fast forward, network DVR, the look and feel of the way the guide looks.
So they don't have a lot of features in Clarksville.
So the fact that ours has a lot of features it makes it more complicated, and all the user issues are because it has all the
User issues and
complexity.
software mode issues.
Oh, wait, I get it. Never mind.
So let me throw something in here. And where I am, I've got 4 of the little boxes. They look like ours in Tennessee. In Georgia, I got Vision on the right, on the front of the box. I've been here 12 days. I've got 4 of the boxes. 2 of them have had to be replaced. 2 out of 4. And the difference is when we call in a problem like that, we get immediate service. I called last Friday and told them what the box was doing, and they said, well, the box has gone bad. I said, well, when can I get it replaced? They says, we can get it next Wednesday. So I waited 5 days to get service down here, and the box was bad. It was just, it wasn't anything I was doing. It took a week. 5 days. That's standard down here for service.
I will tell you, just on the 3 years that we've had it, and even though it's a new series box, we're testing it too. But mean time to failure on the new series box site is a lot higher than it was on the old RF boxes. But a lot of those were 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old too. Some of them were here when I started. But there's a lot less components. Once again, some contain hard drive in the old boxes, and now it's some to the network. There's a lot of differences. They're not apples to apples, they're apples to water.
Let me make one comment before you vote on this change in subject. I want you to notice under the electric that those that say transformer inventory, there's our stock, that you see transformers like this. I hadn't heard you ask too much about do we bid those. Well, these transformers, everything I think that Brian's got right here are bid valley-wide on collective. So we have a competitive, and that's an example
It's like backhoe.
Yeah, I think back up. Now, these are, I mean, there's a utility group that goes out and sets specifications and bid these. These guys get it for 1 or 2 years, Brian.
Usually longer than that, 2 or 3 years.
2 or 3 years. TVA did, or everybody inside TVA?
TVA used to manage it.
Yeah.
BPA was involved in that, but I think it's a couple of the utilities kind of take the lead and bid these things out as a blanket. Right. So whenever they approve the bids, we just go on there and order our stock out.
So when you say 100,000, it's bid.
They are, but yeah, lead time for some of these transfers. That's why I'm ordering 50.
What is it get worse?
6 months on some of that stuff.
They've seen a long time.
Yeah.
know, and you don't know
I guess so.
prices for good for 24 hours.
Metal building,
Wow.
one, same day.
It's real.
If you don't order same day, it's not guaranteed.
We didn't have some of the issues, some big wood stuff. I don't know what you'll do high, but it's the last 3 buds, things are 50% out of the blue. I mean, we didn't have one.
Really? Man. So,
Why don't they do the same thing with pumps and things? There's too many different. Everybody's different.
Yeah, I don't know of any groups that bid pipe. I mean, you could do that in pipe, but I don't know if anybody's doing that. Pumps are so specialized. I mean,
You got a curve, you got a
yeah,
There's just too many of them.
yeah.
All right. We have a motion on the purchases.
This was budgeted, wasn't it?
So moved.
what?
As far as set-top box.
Transformers, set-top boxes, all 3 of those are either budget out or
Question about this, the 1,200 of them. By the time we go through, if we got that many, there's no changes. If we're stuck with 1,200, you don't see changes coming.
No, they're brand new Series 5 7XM.
But how long would it take to go through them?
Well, we hope to get through 400 of them, 400 customers by the end of the
I believe it's 800.
And it's like, the average now is like 2.5 per customer. So you're gonna go through most of them by the end of this.
Well, it's
By the end of the calendar year.
400 customers, but they have more than one set-top box.
Yeah, exactly. It's like 2.7 or 2.5 or something like that.
Okay. Do we get a motion? Do we have a
Yeah, I think Lynn
I
won.
so moved.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. Second. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Wild,
Ah,
Commissioner Dickerson, Commissioner Elkins,
Aye.
Secretary Isaacs,
Aye.
Chairman McGuffin.
aye.
5-0, purpose passed.
Okay, thank you. Move on to the power operations report, Brian.
Okay, of course, the main story for power operations report was the squirrel that got into Cedar Creek substation. And, that actually came in on Holston Electric's 13 dB. And, you know, in a substation, your smaller voltages have smaller clearances. So as you get up to the 69,000 volt, 161 kV stuff, the spacing gets a lot bigger. So a squirrel usually doesn't hurt those. It came in on Holston's line, and the spacing was small. The squirrel touched it, and that was the end of it. DVA's breaker didn't open. It was the high side breaker for the substation, so it just did what it was supposed to do. And Holston went in there and they covered up they used some wildlife protection that goes around the insulators. You may have a picture of it. But they covered up the insulator so the squirrel can't physically contact the wire and the bus work. So we met with a vendor yesterday, and we're looking at doing that at our Callaway substation. Callaway had that device in the past, so we're going to look to get him a quote to cover up some of the insulators and switches and things. We've got 4,500 customers just in Callaway substation. We're getting in there. It's very problematic for power. That was the main story on the operations report. The rest of it, working on more of the same stuff that we have been working on.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. Move on to the water wastewater operations report.
My report's pretty much standard for each month. Standard, nothing unusual about it. I want to take just a few minutes to talk about, I want to kind of bring you some different topics each month, or every other month, to kind of explain a little more about the operations of the water system to you, or wastewater system. But this month I want to talk about fire flow requirements, ISO rating, and what we get in the city. This is a slide. Okay, got changed around. All right. In the city of Morristown, we have what's called a Class 2 fire protection rating. That's issued by the Insurance Service Office out of Atlanta. They come up and do an inspection about once every 10 years. Sometimes it may be 5, sometimes it may be, 11 years. I've seen them. But anyway, in other words, in my career, I've gone through this about 3 or 4 times, and that's it. But what they do is they come in and they kind of evaluate the fire department, and they evaluate the water system. Fire department is 50% of the grade, the water system is 40% of the grade, and 10% is the 911 call center. So in the water system, what that means is they look at our system, and analyze and determine what is our ability to provide water for fire protection. And so there's a criteria involved in this as to get these ratings. But to let you know where we stand nationally, that graph up in the top right corner, we're a Class 2, and there's only roughly 1,600 cities in the nation that's got that rating. And you can see where everybody else falls. There's only 348 that's got a Class 1, being the best. So we've got to, and what that means to the city, typically residential insurance rates are much less compared to somebody that's got a Class 4 or 5. I tried to find some kind of percentage, and they try to hide that, insurance companies do, but typically to go from like if you're a Class 7 or 8, like in the county, and to jump in the inside to 2 or 3, you're probably talking about a 25% reduction in your homeowner's insurance. It can be that significant. Of course, different insurance carriers are different, and so that's why it's hard to quantify an exact number. But you can see the importance of what we do within that and what it results to in the homeowner.
What would it take to get to a Class 1?
It's, I don't know. There's a lot involved with the fire department with that as well. And so I don't know. I can't remember the totals right off how close we are as a water system.
I think those 248 Class 1s are big cities.
Memphis is one of them.
Memphis is one of them.
Yeah. I can't remember who all's got that, but there's, as you can see, there's not many.
Yeah. And a river.
Yeah.
The river.
I know the city's proud of that. They like to.
Yeah.
Tout the ISO too, yeah.
But let's talk about this now. When you talk about ISO ratings, there's 3 basically areas you got to look at. And the first one is residential. And so what they're looking at us is, can we provide fire flow capacity to residential areas? And that's just a snapshot of the inside of the city. You can see McFarland Street there, and you can see our fire hydrant spacing. And so what we're trying to do is get a fire hydrant about every 1,000 feet. Now, where that number comes from is fire truck carries 550 feet of bumper hose. So that means they can hook to a hydrant and travel 500 feet to get to the house to provide fire protection. So that's why we space them every 1,000 feet. And to be a recognized fire hydrant, we have to be able to provide 500 gallons a minute at 20 pounds of pressure. And if it doesn't do that, the ISO does not recognize that fire hydrant. And you have to have 120 minutes of duration. In other words, you can't just blow it for 10 minutes. You got to be able to run it for 2 hours. And so that means you got to have a minimum storage of about 60,000 gallons in the residential area. So therefore, that's why a lot of these, like in 7th North, that's a 100,000 gallon tank. That's why size what it is. Right. Okay. Talk about commercial now. Now this is where it gets a little more complicated. This is probably the most complicated section when you look at ISO ratings. First of all, what ISO does is they come in and they'll pick. They don't do everybody. They'll pick maybe 10 or 15 places, and they'll calculate what's called the needed fire flow. And basically that's what it is. What's the fire flow needed to fight a fire at this location? And it's ones that don't have a sprinkler system. So, and to give you an example, let's say you can see down there, you see where the courthouse is on First North, the Methodist Church right there. I don't think it's got a sprinkler, but let's suppose they were to pick that. They will calculate a number for that building and say, if there's a fire here, then this is how much water needs to be, you need to have to fight that fire. And so then they go back to the water system and say, what can you provide? And so what they do is they'll look at all the fire hydrants around that. So you can see there's 4 fire hydrants around that block that the fire department could access fairly easily. And so again, the assumption there is it's got to be able to provide 500 gallons per minute at 20 psi. And on the commercial, you got to have 4 hours of duration storage. So that's a minimum of 120,000 gallon tank. Okay, so what they do on those is, like, say, one may flow 750 gallons a minute, one may flow 500 gallons a minute, one may flow, 600 gallons a minute. They total all that up, and then that's what your available fire flow capacity is to fight that fire at that location.
Do they test them all at one time? And if they're all on at one time, is the flow affected by the cumulative flow? You know what I'm saying? If you test them all independently, you might get a better number than if you test them all together.
You're right. That can be. But what they do is they take the independent flows They really look at the mains, what it is, massive main.
Gotcha.
So what that dictates to us is that we space fire hydrants in commercial areas about 500 feet apart to get a good range of, so you have close proximity off commercial property. Now the last one is industrial. And that's a shot of May Industrial Park there. Now what's interesting about this, now this is made, now we won't say this is all, but most industrial properties are sprinkled. So that removes them off when they come into the ISO rating, they don't really look at them. But what that means to us is we have to be able to provide whatever flows they need. So what we designed for
To feed the sprinkler system.
To feed the sprinkler systems. What we designed for is 3,000 gallons a minute at a minimum 20 PSI. So that means that we've got to have about 1 million gallons of storage for an industrial park or more. So you got to have storage for your park and you got to have storage for your demand as well. And to kind of give you an idea, this is a fire flow report that we've done. This one is at Bojangles when they were going in, and the other one is out at ETPC. And it kind of shows you, and we got it highlighted in red there, but we've got available 4,000 gallons a minute at 20 PSI through that main there close to Bojangles. And out here on Technology Way, we've got 9,000 gallons a minute of available fire flow capacity.
We have the storage out there to
2
million gallon storage tank to support the industry.
Exactly. So that's just kind of, I wanted to give you a little summary about what it takes to provide fire flow in the city and how it's a crucial component to the fire protection rating and what that does for the end customer and how it reduces insurance
How many storage tanks do we have?
17 total.
And the smallest being?
Smallest one, well, we got one that's not out in the county, that's 10,000 gallons. So we can't count that for, it's in the county, so we can't count it as.
You got how many that are 2 million?
Oh, we've got 5 or 6 that are 2 million gallons. We've got over a day's storage for the city with our tanks inside the city.
So that Class 2 rating, that's a residential rating, or is that a rating for the system?
It's a system rating for the city.
That includes all the different categories you just went over.
Now, there is an impact on commercial rating, insurance carriers on that, but ISO is a little secretive about that. That's a private organization that is funded by insurance companies. And so you're kind of limited on what they'll let you know and how it affects insurance carriers.
Does the county have a rating too?
Yes.
What is it?
I think it's 7.
And how's that compared to nationwide?
That's about it's 6 or 7, something like that, because they have a volunteer fire department, and it's really hard for a volunteer fire department to get into those 3s and 2s.
And that's not criteria, 1 through 10, and get it the same?
Same criteria.
I can't remember what it was, but I was way above 7. I lived out in the farm around White Pine. I remember coming in the city, your insurance.
Yeah.
It's a good benefit.
If you get a day of storage,
Yeah.
and a significant amount of your sales are outside, something happens, do you prioritize where it goes back first, or where that storage goes?
Well, in our contracts with the we're specified we go down together.
Okay. So it's just
Like when we're to have
normal day till it's gone.
Yep.
Have you had any events like that?
I'm just curious. Hard to bring that up.
We've had, in my career, we've had 1 or 2 close calls. That's been years ago.
Is there a reserve held in the tanks for fire if there is a production problem?
No, tanks, they come down together. So, I mean,
Turn the spigot on, you can't stop it.
You can't stop it.
Right. Unless you bounce something somewhere.
Right.
It's the benefit of having a regional water system.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of tanks, a lot of storage volume, and a lot more flexibility than if you were a small system with a couple. And you these have tanks. I was out in Russell.
They all have tanks too.
So actually, when you say that, is that counted in your day?
No, theirs isn't.
So that helps.
But if their tanks went dry, though, they're going to be getting as much as they can out of our system.
Yeah. They'll pretty much go down together. It'll drop together.
That shows off 17 where they're at.
Oh, yeah.
See that?
You gotta do that one word in me as well as he's got a float elevate. What is it? 1080.
1498.
14. I can't remember.
Okay, we've got series standard 1198. That's what feeds the whole city. And then you've got, hills, like I said, the north and different places that are above that. It pumps out of 1498, goes up to higher elevations.
Gibson's about,
Yeah.
Gibson's Hill, and then the Godfather. Samples.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Mike. That's good. Move on to the telecom report.
The outside plants will continue to implement some warehouse organization and inventory control measures. We've got some planning, restoration, repair for appellation trees where it was damaged and Deputy Circle. There's some rework in progress there. And we've also, like Clark indicated, started back up on the IP conversions to meet that 400 customer request issue. There were a number of satellite changes that occurred. We did once again, that's all related to the FCC bandwidth reclamation. And then we did some work on some upgrade fixes and box queuing for the nervous system. On the Nokia side, we continue to work on the audit recommendations. We're just going through those now and getting ready to move to the DWTF portion of that project. The Ashburn peering is complete, which is an effort that helps reduce actual bandwidth usage out to the internet for a faster response to customers that are peering on larger sites. And then we completed the Cisco 15454 replacement, which is a side switch for the meta switch. There was an obsolete piece of equipment that was upgraded and changed. Those are the highlights.
Okay, thank you, George. Is there any customer service?
Now we kind of wrapped it in.
Okay.
Wrapped it in this one. I just got two slides here, I think.
Okay.
So, first off, the COVID update. You can see we're having some good success at reducing cases, and you can see the trend charts on the far right, and then on both of the graphs. So we're moving in a good direction here, and that's why I anticipate hopefully some of these orders or recommendations from the governor will be lifted. But anyway, we're in good shape here. So that leads us to ask, what are we going to do about the main office? So, like the wrong key. So this graph shows you just a call center update. You can obviously see these first two columns on the left that are highlighted. That's the drive-through versus the lobby, which is not much. The good news is the first bullet there. We had 329 new bank draft accounts this month.
What is that?
How many total?
Normally, well, it's right there.
Is it on there?
Risk bank drafts.
Auto draft.
Yeah, auto draft.
Auto draft, yeah. So you about 10, a little under 10. It's always, the fluctuation, it's always higher at the first month. We have more accounts that come due in the very first week of the month. So you're going to see 1,000 and back down to 300, 400, 500, then 1,000. But the drive-through hasn't. Traffic's picked up a little bit. If you look at the percentages highlighted on the right, I think we open the lobby back up. The drive-through percentage will go down. There's a little bit more bank by customer. It's either they don't like waiting here, and it's easier to pay at the bank, although it isn't at the bank. Kiosks and drive-through are up some. Probably go back when we reopen. So in the bottom two bullets, the main offices that are open now at this point, Johnson City, Appalachian, Greenville, Sevierville, Knoxville have opened. Newport, Holston, Morristown, and I'm pretty sure Irwin, I did double check, are still closed. So we're looking at, especially if he lifts the state of emergency here, the 27th. And even if he doesn't, we may
just go back.
I would be in favor of us opening our office back up.
Yeah, are y'all good with that? If you can't, we'll do it Monday.
I'd take away.
So that's what Vicki would like to do, would be open it Monday.
The other way?
Yeah.
I know several banks opened their offices this week, so I
Yeah.
think things are opening back up.
We kind of like it. It's just like this. It's you have to do roll call. You got to record things. So if you're all good, next board meeting, we'll probably just go back to normal. Like you say, unless something were to stop, continuing. Like Brian said, getting a lot of herd mentality. You got a lot of people getting vaccinated, and they're doing less testing, so you're going to have less positives. COVID is not good to you if you get it. We've, I think, done well. We're still at 41 employees out of 108, I think, that have been positive, and we haven't had one now, and it's been 2 weeks, 10 and 3 weeks. So we think we're seeing the tail end of the case, so that's good. So I appreciate that input. That's what we'll plan on doing. And future board, before we go into executive session, those are the future board dates. Those are standard 4th Thursdays in the month. Does anybody have any reservations about
I'll
that?
be here next month.
On the 20th. We'll miss the 25th.
Yeah.
Are you gone all week?
Yeah. Okay. The 10th. Okay. The second, maybe.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. I'll go ahead and send out, save the dates, and Lynn and George, they'll sound okay to you?
That
was good. Okay. All right. We're gonna, if you'll unmute the phone, we'll go to executive.
Your line has been unmuted.
You're welcome. For those on the call, Ms. Noy, Mr. Strazilia, we're going to exit now. I'm sorry if I said that wrong. We're going to exit to an executive session. Ms. Noy usually asks if there's any action coming out. We do not anticipate any further resolutions or action coming out of the executive session. So you may hang on and we'll check with you again. And if not, as we mentioned, we hopefully will be back to normal meetings arrangements next month. Any comments before I mute?
Yeah, I would like to make a comment. This is Tony Stradazzulo with Lakeway Audits. The executive order strictly states that Section 19 of the Tennessee Bill of Rights cannot be violated. And I was in there earlier, spoke to Clark, and Clark refused my entry to this meeting to record as part of the media. Now, that is in strict violation of the executive order. Not only is that part a violation of the executive order, he was within 6 feet of me without a mask, which is also a requirement of the executive order. I feel that Morristown Utility System is not upholding the directive of what the actual order states and entails.
Thanks for your comment, and our attorney will consider that. So I guess we're going to exit to executive session. So again, we will check with you after the session is over, and before we absolutely adjourn the meeting formally. So we're going to mute the lines at this point.